And welcome to another edition of the Stay True podcast, being brought to you by T.R.U.E Coaching, where triumph requires unlimited effort. I am your host, Lamont, and I am ecstatic to have my homeboy today, Mr. Jeff Primos. How you doing, sir?
I'm very well, sir. Hey, you see I'm representing, man.
That's what I meant. My heart did good, bro. I was like, when I saw it, I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah.
Man, I have you on, man, because you represent so many different things, bro. But if you could, at this moment, if you give like a little background as we segue into the episode.
Okay. Very good. So, like you said, I do a lot of things. I'm a father, a husband, community. I wouldn't say activist, but I'm leaning in that direction. But very active in the community. I'm an alpha man, Alpha Phi Alpha, and I currently, my position now is the director of business administration for the UMKC Dental School, which is probably one of the top dental schools in the country, even though it's a quiet secret here in Kansas City. A lot of people don't know how good that dental school is, but it's in the dental community, it's a big deal. So my background, I am born and raised right here in Kansas City, Marlboro, in the Marlboro community. I'm right here sitting right now in the Marlboro community. I am currently the president of the Marlboro Community Coalition, which is the neighborhood, a conglomeration of all the neighborhood associations here in this area. And so, more about my background, I born and raised here in Marlboro, went to Catholic school, St. Augustine, Bishop Hogan. After that, I journeyed down to Grambling, Louisiana to go to Grambling State University. Some of the best times of my life, just learning, just being around that HBCU life, man. It's nothing like it, man. I think about it sometimes and get chills, man. How much fun I used to have back in the day, going to the games. And, I actually, when I was at Grambling, that was when Grambling was like this huge, there was just surge. It's after Different World and all the Spike Lee movies and all the blackness, kind of like what's going on right now, right? So I went down there and, it was a housing shortage because there was so many people. When I was down there, I think it was the heyday of Grambling. It's like 11,000, 10,000 students. So compared to right now, they're around 5, 6. So no housing. So I end up, it was a blessing because I end up staying with all these different type of people, man. And, my first roommate was in the band. So I got exposed to all the band cats and, how they get down and, get to go to all the band parties and figure out, all the band stuff. It's a world unto itself, getting exposed to that. And then, in my third year in Grambling, I actually stayed in the football dorm. So I got to be exposed to Coach Eddie Robinson. And every morning, Coach Eddie Robinson would get up in the morning and he had a cowbell, man. And he would walk through the halls and ring that cowbell to make people get up and go to breakfast. And so, man, he think to get up. And so my roommate is like one of, and I made like friends for life there. So my roommate in the football dorm, he's still one of my really good friends right now. He was one of the best men in my wedding. I'm the godfather to his daughter. But yeah, he is 6'9", about the time he's about 300 pounds. And he used to hide in his little bitty locker and trying to hide from Coach Rob so he wouldn't have to go to breakfast. So man, just good times, good memories at Grambling. So then I came back here. I worked a bit for the city. And then I worked for Sprint for 11 years, where I was got into this financial management development program, which was supposed to prepare me to be a director at Sprint, but end up, all the different changes and mergers and things like that at Sprint. Just the program kind of went down a little bit. And so I was trying to get rotations elsewhere, wasn't able to get it. And then I had the opportunity to apply for this job at UMKC as director of business administration and been there ever since, man. So, that's kind of my background. And so hey, I'm just right now. I'm working on a lot of different things in the community right now. So,
I love
including
it.
this job and raising my kids. I have a
Yeah.
daughter at Tuskegee and two daughters at Lincoln.
Oh, that's awesome. That's my alma mater, Lincoln
Right there. It's a
Prep.
great school, man.
That's
Great
it,
school.
bro. In the nation, and I want that to. I wanted to have that type of status. So I've been working behind the scenes, man, hopefully to expose these students to more stuff, But again, you listen to the Stay True podcast, being brought to you by T.R.U.E Coaching, where triumph requires unlimited effort. Today's guest is Mr. Jeff Primos. Jeff, I love your stories, bro. I love listening to you talk, man. You got a lot of energy. But when you were talking, man, I heard so much resilience in your story. Tell me where the resilience comes from, because it connects to your drive. Tell me where that comes from. Give me the how, the what, when, where.
Man, just so that's only half my resilience story. But I'll tell you about, well, my drive comes from my mother and my grandmother, who were, my grandmother, from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, actually a really small town outside of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and they owned a farm down there. They had their own land. They were actually sharecroppers, and so they had their own land. Like they have probably about 10 acres of land down there in a little town called McClellan, Mississippi. It's on the way to Biloxi. It's about an hour from New Orleans and about 45 minutes from Biloxi, which is the beach area on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi. So, my grandmother was just a phenomenal woman, man, a pillar of the community. And I think she instilled a lot of that in her children. And my mother just tended to be one of her, I think she was the youngest girl. And so she kind of, got some special treatment, but she spent a lot of time around my grandmother. And I think she picked up a lot of that. And my mother was really a phenomenal woman. She taught in the school district for 40 years. She was involved in the teachers union, and she was just, man, she was the glue that really held our family together. She used to coordinate getting everybody together, and she was the one that everybody came to when she had problems. She had some health issues in her younger days, and that's kind of where my resilience comes from. Seeing her, just pull through. My mother had a brain aneurysm while I was in school, man, and she was laid up in the hospital, had brain surgery, and she fully recovered. Well, I mean, when I say fully recovered, you wouldn't even know that she had a brain aneurysm and almost died from that. Just a really strong, and that just kind of that all of her brothers and sisters, just really, really strong people. So I come from that, just that strong lineage, that people, I mean, just that they can make it through anything. I have an aunt now who is, I mean, she's been in the hospital. She's been in, and won't go to care, and she's just so strong, still living by herself down in the woods, down in Mississippi, and just like won't let anybody move her off the land. Like she's like, I'm gonna be down there in this trailer until I want to. So you're not gonna make me leave. So that's where it comes from. Seeing the old heads in Mississippi, and my father and my mother, just really strong people.
Awesome.
It just grew from that.
That's awesome. Let me ask you this: Is there a way to, because resilience, especially in like business and in life, is I think is an essential ingredient to the perseverance. Is there a way that it can be taught, or is that something you need to be born with, you think?
No, I don't think you need to be born necessarily with anything, because I think I'm living proof that you can learn anything, but what you have to do is, well, depending on how you learn, you have to find out how you learn best. But I think, to me, the best way is to really network with people, get to know people who have that resilience, be around those people, join groups that have that people. I mean, that's what I'm trying to get my daughter to understand. You got to be around people. You go to college to learn, but you also go to college to meet people. Like some of the people, like I said, some of the folks I've met, man, just exposed me to so many things. And that's how you really learn that, being around those strong people. Like, my college roommate as a freshman, he just kind of took me in. He was from Covington, Louisiana. And man, we went down to Covington. We went to, New Orleans, and we went to all kinds of different festivals, not even Mardi Gras. They have this thing called the Crawfish Festival in Breaux Bridge, Louisiana. That's right, like next to Lafayette. We went to USL. I went down there. I thought I wanted to transfer. It's very nice down there. I'll say that. But I think you got to be around those people. And I think what young people, with the way our culture, society is right now, we don't have a lot of that, where, the older generation is really trying to reach out to that younger generation. I think there's a communication gap because we don't know how to talk to each other. And right now we desperately need each other. These young men really need each other. Like I said, I do a lot of things in the community, and I've been working with this effort called the Heart of the Matter, which is the ministers working with the police trying to solve violence. And it is interesting that when we talk in some of these meetings, there are no strategies. And I was just like, why aren't we reaching out to, and they put out all these statistics about what's going on. This is the crime here, this is the crime there. And I was looking at the murder rate, man, and it is shocking to see the murder rate. Like, it is like 0 white women murdered, like 1 or 2 white men murdered, like 0 Asian people murdered. I mean, they break it down like that. And when you get the black men, I mean, that's the majority of the murders. Black men between 20 and 40, 20, really 20 and 35. Like, if it was occurred, it'd be like black men from 20 to 25 to 30, and then everybody else. Like, and I was asking, what's the strategies for reaching out to these people? I think that's the key. We need to reach out more across the line to the younger generation and kind of talk. And, so they just need to be around strong people, because it's everything is kind of fake nowadays, with Instagram and all these social media. I heard something from Ice-T was talking about how that Instagram and all that's an advertisement, man, of the life that you want, right? Because you're only taking your best shots, or you're not like waking up in the morning and taking an Instagram shot. It's I think just is like right now a lot of fakeness in the world, but I think we need to do more. You just need to be around real people to get some real knowledge and some real experience.
That's a really good point. Again, you listen to the Stay True podcast, brought to you by T.R.U.E Coaching. Jeff, as I'm listening to you, man, and I totally agree with what you just said. How do you? Because those of us who were not able to go to an HBCU, man, we stand like we looking in the window of all this historical significance and all the great fun you guys had. But how do you bring that HBCU? Because there's a lot of powerful HBCUs that are entrenched in most of the communities, and I always feel like that background that most of you guys have, it was almost like a baton to champion causes. How do we get, because now, like you said before, like the different world days, and now it's to the point where everybody loves HBCUs again. And how do we get the HBCUs to champion more causes in the community, not just the community where the school reside, but where most alumni reside, and then connect back to the school, if that makes sense? How do we do that?
Well, I mean, are you speaking specifically about Kansas City or just in general?
Just in general, man, because I talk to so many different people in their various communities, and a lot of them are excited about their HBCUs, and then and they want everybody to go to HBCUs. And what I'm hoping is, because I love all, like the Gramblins, the Southerns, all those different things, but it's a lot of engineers that come out of those it's a lot of powerful business politicians that come out, and I'm like, how can we encourage? Because I want to be a part of, like you said, the activism as well, man. But I thought that the HBCU would be a common thread because we all are peeking in on the HBCUs now. And so, is there anything that I'm missing that maybe some HBCUs are doing in various communities?
Well,
that could be an example for other communities.
Yeah, so I think one of our issues, and one of the things that I see in some of the the things and the spaces I'm in is we as a community don't do a good job in trying to get involved, man, and championing our causes and being at the table. So I'm just thinking about Kansas City. I think the perfect thing would be rally around these schools, like Lincoln, and kind of try to create that atmosphere. And but I think it's really about getting people involved, because there's a lot. I mean, you were talking about like graduation rates, and so you look at Tuskegee. Most Black vets come from Tuskegee. Most Black lawyers probably come from HBCU. Most 70% of the Black doctors come from Xavier in New Orleans. So we know Black schools, HBCUs, are making a difference, and that's actually where a lot of high-level executives come from. When I was at Sprint, man, most of those high-level executives, they came from HBCU, FAM, Howard, Hampton. So if they didn't go there, they were at an Ivy League school, like some of the executives. So I think, we have to figure out, there's Chanel Smith has that HBCU. I think that's her. If I got her name wrong, I'm sorry, but she does the HBCU walking billboard, and that's a start. But I think what we struggle with is having, people get involved with those causes. And trying to build up momentum. And that's one of the challenges I think we have as a community in getting anything off the ground. I've been a part of a lot of organizations that just struggle to get people to help, just come to meetings and get active. And so I haven't had the answer for doing that, but I think we have to get more involved, because there's plenty of alumni here, right? There's plenty of alumni in every city that went to a HBCU. It's just it takes those folks that want to be involved to build up that alumni association, or build up an organization like HBCU Billboard that can kind of bring everybody together so they can focus on like getting into the schools and scholarships and causes and things like that. And so, maybe when I retire, that's something I can get into, but I got some other things going on. But that's something that we really need to think about, because when we're not at the table, we're not making decisions about our community. And that's why I'm participating. That's actually why I moved back here to Marlboro and participated with the Community Coalition. Because when you sit around that table and we're talking to councilmen, and we're talking to the mayor, and we're talking to the city manager, I'm the only Black face at that table I'm the only one representing this community. And how can that be when this is supposed to be a coalition of the, a coalition of the community, and we're not, representing? I think we need more representation, and that's really local. All politics is local, and when we don't get involved in those type of things, it's that's why our community is where it is in some places, because we don't make the decisions. We're not at the table. We don't make the decisions. But I say that to say, we need to really support those organizations that are doing this stuff, because there are organizations in every city that's doing it. It's just that they may not necessarily be the hot thing in getting the support that they should. And everybody loves to talk about the HBCU, but how many are actually donating and participating? You go into homecoming, but how are we giving back, not in just dollars, but telling another kid and getting kids involved to create that pipeline?
That's a powerful statement. So, and what I'm drawing from it is a lot of people focus on national politics, but you just said it's the grassroots politics.
It's local.
Local.
Everything is local. This position has been so eye-opening, because I've met with all city officials. I've worked through. I know city government. I used to work for the city too, so I know the ins and outs. But I mean, it's all about development, man. It's all, I just recently took a class through the Urban Land Institute. It's called the READY program it's a diversity initiative for real estate. And so, you just see, they're think dollars, and they're at these tables making these decisions of what goes in your community, what goes in the community, what's being built in your community. And so you have all these land, we don't own the land in our own communities. And so if we don't go to these community meetings, and we don't go to the city council to hear what's going on in our community, they're going to put whatever they want in your community. Like, we had a gas station, in our area, just in this, like, what is it, a 4-block area, we have like 4 or 5 liquor stores on Truce, right? Truce and Prospect. And so there was someone that wanted to put another gas station right here on 75th and Prospect. And those gas stations, they bring a lot of crime, a lot of issues center around those areas, and so, the community got together and they stopped that from happening. But again, what about those weaker communities that don't have that representation? And if people don't get involved, they're going to they're looking at profit. They see color, but really what they're interested in is dollars. Everything has to make money. Everything has to pencil is the term they use. But with that, if we're not represented at that table, we don't determine what goes on in our communities. If they own the land, they're going to build what they want to build and they're going to put what makes money, not what necessarily makes the community better. And, that's, why I'm going to stay involved and somehow in some type in real estate and staying involved with the community organization, because I mean, I grew up here. I'm not getting ready to, I don't want to see all these people that have been here, people on my block. I have neighbors that have, been in their houses for more than 20 years. I have 2 neighbors that have been here, 40 years or more. I have retired policemen, retired folks, people who have owned these houses, since I was, 8 years old. And so, I don't want to see people pushed out of the community and the gentrification to push people out. I think change is good, but you still have to have something for the people in the community.
I love what you're saying, man, because this is this particular scenario that you brought up is not designated to one city. I hear it all across the country, man. It's ridiculous. So getting involved in local politics is important. I mean, a lot of people now, and I love the cause of supporting Black business right now. I really love it. But then it's like there's not a lot of education around what that means. Like, there's not a lot of education in, okay, supporting the Black business, but then holding a Black business accountable to now invest back into the community, not just for profit, but for like you were saying, to maybe to own some of the land more, to be able to, I mean, gentrification, I mean, it's moving like at a rapid pace, but to be able to preserve some of the things that mean something to those of us of color, that the local politics makes perfect sense. So now what I want you to do, Jeff, so I mean, again, it's a universal. So let's narrow down like 4 areas that people of color can get involved in to improve their communities.
Okay.
So one sound like it's economics, right? So
I mean, it's to me. So you should have you talked to Jamu Webster? He is he owns Du Bois Consultants. You should have him on here.
Yeah, I've talked to him. I briefly, but keep
okay. So I sit on a board with him. It's a powerful, strong, very intelligent brother who has a very successful company in Kansas City. So we had this conversation like a couple of weeks ago so I was telling him some of the things that go on that I was doing with the police, and he was like, that's good, but it's really about economic. The first thing a person could do is become financial literacy, man. That's number one, because that changes everything. That changes everything, because even us successful people need financial literacy. Because I think back, to some of the mistakes I've made financially. And it's just not knowing. It's not knowing, because we grew up, with our parents not really being financially savvy. They thought they knew, they thought you save and this is what you do. You put all this money inside, but that's not really, this finance game is you need to learn it and understand it. You need to learn it. And right now, educate yourself financially. Right now, there is no excuse for Black people not to be educated on business and finances. Stop that. YouTube right now is a monster. It's a monster. I mean, shows like yours, Earn Your Leisure podcast, man. If you want to be in business and want to learn, just start piquing your interest. Earn Your Leisure podcast, man. It is, powerful individuals all in Atlanta. There's just so many brothers out there in like Atlanta, putting this information out on YouTube that there's really, no excuse. And so financial literacy is the first step for our community, just learning. Cause I know brothers, I have a friend that has not had a bank account in 20 years. 20 years. He hasn't had a bank account and used to own his own business and does not have a bank account.
Wow.
Like how, and if you don't have that, that is the basis. That's the basis of the relationship with a banker. Whether you're against the system or for it, a relationship, having a bank account is a basic. You can't get any credit. You can't get anything. You can't really, if you don't have finance, you don't have a credit card, you don't have any kind of credit history, you don't have a bank account, you can't write a check. You're just getting what you can't, they don't even do checks anymore. They give you this little card and they're choosing your bank for you.
Wow.
But if you have financial literacy is important. To getting involved with the community organization in your neighborhood. Get involved with some organization in community, because the community organizations in any city are driving the development that's going on, because every development that happens, there has to be some kind of community buy-off. And what happens a lot of times is we don't show up when they have these meetings, or 2 or 3 people show up. But if you want to have influence in your community, you have to get involved, and you're concerned about what's going on. If you're concerned about gentrification, you need to be involved with your community organization that has a say, because they have to go to the community, because that's how you hold your council people accountable. I was surprised how easy it is for us to meet with the council, once I got in this position. Yeah, right after I get on this podcast, I'm going to community cleanup where our city councilmen will be. So, interacting with those type of people is important, because they make decisions. They're making $1 billion decisions about where you live. Wow. They're making, about the air you breathe, about the water you drink, about how your trash is picked up. It's just about how things can get taken care of in your community. It's all about the city council and the city government. And that's why every politics is local, because, voting for Trump and Kamala and all of them is great, but the people who are controlling your life are down there at City Hall.
There you go. That's good.
They're sitting in City Hall.
That's good. And you know what too, bro, is it, and when you're talking, man, I hear the Tulsa massacre all over again, but it's different now, where that was so up in your face, but now it's a type of it's almost like chemical warfare. So once the bomb is released, now you sit back and wait for the things to happen. It's like right now, the being able to be involved in politics, and if you don't show up, the moves that are made without you knowing, and then you look up, your community has been destroyed. What we want to do is get mad after.
Yeah. We want to get mad after and march and complain, but it's too late. Once that building is up, you got to work with it. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Once, what I'm saying, once this perfect example, once these developers come in your neighborhood and they buy all your property, what I'm saying, and they put whoever they want to in the house, there's nothing you can do about it after the fact. That's why you got to get involved on the front end and question all of these decisions that are being made. I think, with those massacres, what they really took from us is the education. where our ability to really educate ourselves. And so we don't have good choices for schools that, you know, to me, that was the biggest impact, because back in Tulsa, they had their own schools, own everything.
Exactly right.
And now we're dependent on somebody else to educate us, which is, you know.
So it sounds like one of the areas, the 4 areas is going to definitely be education. And what I found out is generationally, the fear changes. So when it comes to education, so now even with the technology, the older generation who like right before this technology generation still has an impact. And so but it's a type of fear that they have with technology that prohibits some of the younger generation from really exploding with, like, you know, the research with, like you saying, like with Google. It's so many things that we got to protect our kids from as it is. But, and you mentioned Lincoln, and I love Lincoln. And I look at, I'm not ashamed to say it, I look at how the district uses Lincoln, leverages Lincoln, but don't put enough investment back into Lincoln so Lincoln can be the premier school in the nation. It was one of the top, at one point, it was like one of the top 100 schools in the nation. And right. I look at other cities, and again, man, way I roll, I'm so universal. I don't look local. I look national all the time, or even beyond, because it's a whatever happens in a person's city is a microcosm of the entire nation. And so you have schools like this who were once predominantly Black schools for that particular location, and those are the schools that they come back. You know, the different, I guess, city officials will say, you know what, we're going to help rebuild that particular school. But in order to rebuild it, you got to have a type of integration for us to be able to feel comfortable investing back into the school. So now you got people coming from all over going to this school, same in Tulsa, they got it in Booker T, and there's various other cities the same way. So they come in those different areas, and that's the way they feel comfortable investing, because now their kids can go to Lincoln. So now I'm going to invest back into Lincoln. But the problem that I'm having is, and it seems like it's the same with like some HBCUs, is that I'm proud to say I went here, but I won't come back there to give my time.
Mm-hmm.
That's so I try to, again, that's what I was telling you before. Like I go around the country and I talk to students to understand, you know, like their schools, the education system. And if I can understand the education system and what's connected to that, I can almost understand your economics in your city. Like I understand where the money goes. I understand who's behind the money, which is important. And I know now technology is a big deal, Primos. Technology is huge, and we don't have enough of our people of color understanding technology. You don't have to be an engineer, you don't have to be a programmer, but to understand technology, that's the new economics in a sense now. What do you think?
I think that's number 4, man.
Yeah.
I think you said it. Education, getting involved in your community, financial literacy, and learning technology, because that's where the jobs is going to be. That's where the job, man, dude. And it's crazy. Like, I don't know. I being in some of the places I be in, I see it, man. The jobs are gone, man. You know, our cleaning crew, they don't have to clean the floor no more. They have this giant, it's a version of a shark that actually is a commercial cleaner that automatically will go at night and clean the floor. So that's coming. A lot of these jobs, and we need to be prepared for that, and we're not. There's so many people that don't, man. There's people at my job don't have a computer, don't have internet. Like during COVID, they were not, I work in a medical setting, so a lot of them couldn't work at home, but there were people that could not work at home because they didn't have an internet connection.
Wow.
And so, part of that is, financial and, just something they just have to do without because they can't afford it. But, you have that technology is important because that's how you apply for a job now. I mean, but more importantly, that a computer and Google and YouTube gives you access to knowledge. There's classes online. You can get an MBA. There is nothing that you can't learn on YouTube or on the internet. It's nothing. Everything is out there. on YouTube, there's a video about everything. And then more so about business, about finances, about how things work. But I think, it is a difficult when people don't get involved, man. It's really simple, man. And you have to, I don't know if the schools need to do a better job at keeping in touch with their alumni. And I think that's part of it. Cause I think, and being in the frat, there's this expectation that you just come back and you gonna give and you have to be a part of that. And yeah, we do want to do that, but everybody's not in that situation. And I think it's the same for, HBCUs and schools, is they have to be able to connect with the parents. They have to be able to connect with their alumni, because that's what you need people to get involved, because that's how you keep, that's influence, because you have to influence the decision makers. You have to influence the school board. Right. You have to need your alumni to be on the school board. Yeah. Those different type of things. Cause I'm thinking about trying to be on the board for my old high school. But you have to have that influence to stop, to keep things the way they should be for the community and keep a community benefit. Because when outside people come in, they're not thinking about your community. Yeah. They're coming to take things over. And a lot of times they really, everybody loves Black culture, but not everybody loves Black people. Yeah. So they want to take over and they want to do things their way. And, I was joking with my wife the other night about, somebody that's leaving our community, and it's like, at any time, man, it's like a little card they have in that pocket. It says white privilege, and they can just whip it out at any time. Boom. Yeah. I can move. I can go. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And we don't necessarily have that luxury to just be able to say, oh, I'm tired of this. What's happening in the neighborhood? I can just move. I'm gonna tell you, a lot of people don't have that.
You were right, bro. I'm gonna tell you what just came to me while you was talking, bro. I think we should have a community. When I talk about community right now, I'm talking about people of color. I'm talking about a type of potluck, like a potluck dinner, but a potluck of talents and gifts, and bring those to the table in every community, man, and not worry about you ate more, you didn't bring less. And that's the problem that I'm seeing with us as a people, man. We worry about what this person's doing, what this person's not doing, and at the same time, the community decays more. So what I'm looking at is a type of potluck concept that can go, in each community, where we maybe start with those 4 areas and take those 4 areas and people bring those to the table. And how can I help benefit the community in these 4 areas? And after that, then you can start thinking about, well, who we want to invest financially into this concept, right? Not one person benefits like normally what happens. Because I look at a lot of different business models. I use the person's name to display the business model. So like Sean Combs, like a Jay-Z. The great thing about those guys is that we're looking at the money that they're making, but it's still like they only got 4 or 5 areas that they were able to build from. Parties, drinking, music, it's the same. It was just those 4 areas. So whatever happened beyond that, it all stems back to those areas. And that's why I wanted to start with those areas. But if you start with those particular small areas, we can revolutionize in the community and present ourselves where it's almost like the gladiator approach when they were, where he was like, get down, and they had the shields. We can start protecting each other, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's like right now, like we front protected, but the back is not protected. So I think if we can bring that potluck concept, we can surround each other, because now each side is protected. So now we can go into warfare with a little bit more strategy. What do you think?
I mean, I like that concept. But I think what you have to focus on is getting the right, because what you need in any organization, you're going to have a few workers and everybody else you just kind of have to bring along. And because one of the things, when you say that, it's hard to get us together, people are only out for their self-interest. That's everybody. That's not just our community. And I see that firsthand.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, you're right
You
on
know,
that.
other communities, they're in it for themselves for sure. They may what's the difference is we can't afford to be like we can't afford not to be together. They can afford to kind of separate off. I'm tired of this. I'm leaving, because then they can find somebody else. But you know, they are involved in, you know, everybody else is interested in their self as well. People join things because they have something in it, you know, that they think they're going to benefit from, no matter what community you come from. That I've learned that for sure. There are very few benevolent people, truly benevolent people in the world. From
I
what
agree.
I've seen.
I agree.
People are in things for their own self-interest. So what you have to do is find those few people that can really that are really committed, man, really passionate and committed to it, and then have those folks kind of be your champions to bring, because you're gonna have to bring people. Some people are
Do you
gonna
think that still exists? Do you think that pure passion without gratification still exists?
That's why I say you got to find some special people. I mean, you know, it's I don't know. That's a great question. I mean, I think, you know, in some cases it does, but I think, you know, as my wife would say, you know, Black folks are always dealing with, man. I think about just this year and COVID and all that we are dealing with. That's on top of being Black. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's on top of what we are already dealing with. You know, seeing people get murdered by the police almost once a month. You know what I'm saying? And seeing us murder each other weekly, daily in Kansas City. I mean, we are already dealing with so much that it's hard to put more on people's plates. And that, I think, is our issue. We are already, that's why I think it's hard for us to galvanize, because we're already dealing with so much already. And so we try to put something else on somebody's plate. They have to be really passionate about it and committed to it, or it's not going to happen. You have to, you know, because it's hard to add on more to people that are already dealing with so much. You know, we deal with a lot. It's you know, being Black in America is a real thing. And it's, you know, it is, if you don't, I think, you know, it's important to have like faith and hope, and you have to have a spiritual base to kind of deal with this. Because it's not easy if you just
it's bigger than us.
Bro,
this is one of the things too, man. I remember I was in undergrad, bro, and I was the community service chair. And one of my things was I wanted to create something where all the Greeks can be involved, because I knew everybody had a chapter of the year concept. I knew all that. And so what I'm looking at now is, like, if somebody need to figure out how to galvanize us as organizations, because it's almost like the body. So, you know, the memberships have changed as far as like the interest, you know, so that means like your toes gone, your foot gone. So now, you know, once that start happening, we wobbling. And so what I'm looking at is, and my encouragement, and I try to do it in, you know, my own little way of uniting folks, man. But I feel like a lot of change can flow through those NPHC organizations, because everybody already at the table, right? And then when I listen to the stuff that comes to the table, I'm like, I wouldn't even eat that at a potluck dinner. So how would you bring? So what I'm hoping, in my encouragement to a lot of organizations, is that, man, don't BS around. Bring your best to the table, because, you know, we try to hide our best, you know, just to say we at the table. But I'm like, bring your best to the table, because you don't know who's at the table. You were saying yourself, you were naming all these different people, and I know some of those people, and I'm like, I seen them when they were on the rise, and I saw some of the people, you know, they was on the rise, and they had very selfish motives. Some of the people have very selfish motives, and I sat back and watched, because most of the time, all I did was observe. And so I watched one of the people that you named, and it was rising. And when they couldn't get money for their particular thing, they was in an uproar. Now they're on a whole nother level, and I'm like, I don't even hear them anymore, because they got what they need to get. So somebody like me who spent so many years observing, like I approach things a little bit different because I see things different. I'm still under, maybe maybe I'm still a little green, but I believe there's still that pureness connected to passion where people want to do good and don't always want stuff in return. I believe it's maybe 2 or 3 out there that's still that way, bro. And because I believe that way, I keep fighting in my way. So like, which I appreciate you winning that my college draft, because that means a lot to my cerebellum right now, brother. But we do so much like with technology, man. We bringing the where's my docs to the table, and we're taking that technology and we're wanting to expose students who can't afford to go anywhere on these college tours. They can't afford. Matter of fact, some of these colleges want to come to our neighborhoods. Forget us, not these colleges don't want to come to our. So I bring those to the student, and guess what? The high schools make it difficult for me to work with the high schools because they don't. And please, bro, I'm like, I come as professional as possibly can, but they make it difficult for you to bring the help. They, a lot of the community make it difficult to bring the help, but I thank God for resilience. That's one thing that you bring to the table. I thank God for resilience, that persistency, because I too have that same kind of story with that, where the strength comes from, that grandmother, that mama, my sister. I mean, it comes from that. So I thankful for that resilience. But I don't think enough of us are resilient enough to be a conduit, because it's going to be no. And the no was already the first thing that's going to come out their mouths anyway, right? So I'm gonna switch these type of questions here in a second, Joe. But tell me how to be a proper conduit.
Good. That just you hit the question that I wanted you to ask. I say, man, 2 things. 1, focus on the younger generation, and 2, forget the rules.
I like it.
But forget the man. I have been in an experience. So I'll give you an example of I just told you I was in a program, and it was kind of a competition, and we did a project, and so okay, they laid out all these rules for us, like, okay, can't do this, you can't contact this person, you just really need to do this, you got to stay within yourself, you can't reach out, you can't do all this stuff. Okay, so my team, we follow all the rules. We didn't reach out. We try to work within ourselves to get everything that we needed. In our presentation, we didn't have any kind of fancy design or anything like that. We had what we could because we did it all ourselves. We worked within ourselves to get all our design work and the presentation and everything. We did everything ourselves with in-house and our mentors. We get to the presentation, everybody has these nice presentations, and it was part of the real estate thing. Everybody has these nice presentations, and they work with architects, and what I'm saying, they've reached out to different organizations, and they've done all this stuff, right? And we're like, hey, we following the rules. We even tried to stick to the time. First presentation was almost 10 minutes over. We're supposed to only have 15 minutes, and we're struggling to keep up with rules that don't benefit, and nobody else is following them. And I think that's what happens to Black people. We are so used to being, I don't know, oppressed or disenfranchised that we follow the rules no matter what. We are good at following rules. I can tell you other communities don't care about the rules. If they don't benefit them, that's where the term, I'm finally realizing that's where the term rules are made to be broken or came from, because I mean, the people at the top, the rules don't apply to. They don't necessarily, if the rules don't necessarily benefit them, they try to change them. And I think our community doesn't really do that. If there's a rule, we follow it because we think there's a consequence. And that probably came out of where we came from, because consequences were severe. You know what I'm saying? Like, my dad used to talk about how, they wouldn't let him go to town because he used to like to fight. Because they know in Mississippi, you go to town and you do the wrong thing, and you hanging on a tree.
Yeah.
And so I think that comes out of that background, but we have to stop following the rules when they don't benefit us. Like, and not just with civil rights, but for your instance, I mean, you just got to go around people. You just got to go around them and find a way in, whether it's going directly to students or whatever, because that's how you have to get it. And especially Kansas City's a show me state. You almost had to get it before you can get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're right, actually, bro.
You have to show it before they will. Once you show it, then everybody wants to jump on, right? But you have to you have to make your way before somebody will jump on board. And I think that's how we have to think. It's like some of these rules, man, that we try to follow and processes that, they're made to kind of keep people down. And sometimes you just got to go around. You got to go around. You got to go through. I heard Mos Def said that Bobby Womack told him one time, you got to go through it to get to it. I love that quote, because you got to, man. Sometimes you got to go through it to get to, and that's part of resilience. You got to go through it to get to where you want to go. You got to go through it,
bro. Now I'm gonna shift for a second here. Now I've used this before, but I think I'm gonna like it with you. I'm gonna throw out some geometric figures, and you tell me which one describes you and why. All right. Okay. So circle, square, triangle, hexagon, rectangle, and I even go, let's go with those. So circle,
square, rectangle.
Let's go octagon too. I even go octagon on you.
Okay. I'd say I'm sometimes a circle, sometimes a square. And I don't know, the circle just reminds me of 360 degrees, everything. And I just I'm a person that, and sometimes too much, I like to be involved in everything. I like to see everything. So I'd like to see everything that's around. I like to explore. And the square kind of reminds me of kind of being a little kind of nerdy. I'm into technology and things like that, Star Wars, and some of those things. So I don't know if I could settle on one.
Man, first of all, bro, I appreciate this time. I've enjoyed it wholeheartedly, man. And I can't wait to look at the recording. I want you to, these last few minutes, that we got just a couple of minutes, man. I want you to take your camera and speak life into whatever situation that's on your heart right now, and give it pure passion right now.
Brother, I would be remiss without saying how I am a survivor. I just 2 years ago, I was actually fighting for my life. I had a disease that was affecting my liver, and I ended up having a liver transplant 2 years ago. Wow! So you talk about resilience and just going through it to get to it. That's one of the things that I had to deal with. So always a advocate for organ donation, because that literally organ donation saved my life. I was at the point where my kidneys were failing, my organs were shutting down, and over a weekend, and I was able to get a liver, and now you wouldn't even know. Wow, that I've survived through something like that.
Congratulations, brother. Honest.
So when you talk about resilience, and that's one of the things, being around people that are strong has helped me see that you can really survive through anything. I think a lot of times I'm whatever, again, I'm big into YouTube, so I do a lot of things on philosophy, and I think a lot of times people tend to overthink things, and that gets us into a lot of trouble. Sometimes we just need to go and act. So that's really what's on my heart right now. If there's anything that anybody is thinking about doing, don't overthink it. I need to I need to put that into practice myself. I need to practice what I'm preaching right now. And I may be speaking to myself right now more than anything about putting things into action that God is placing on your heart. Because I think people can survive. You can really survive through anything if you have the right mindset. because, you know, I never at once thought that I was not going to recover. You know, even when they was poking like needles in my back and I was in all this pain and I'm tied up to all these tubes in the hospital, I always thought I would recover. And so, you know, that's part of being resilient, and that's part of just having hope and having faith. And I think with that, you know, having the right mindset and having a spiritual base, I think you can get through anything. And I think you just have to not overthink it and act sometimes, all the times, and that will get you where you need to be.
That's awesome, bro. I'm inspired right now. I'm inspired. Again, you've been listening to the Stay True podcast, brought to you by True Beast Coaching. Again, we want to thank our guest today, Mr. Jeff Primos. I can't wait to look at this show, bro. Man, you said some good stuff, man. So thank you so much for being a part of.
Hey, man, thank you for having me, man. Hey, whatever you need, I support. That's what I am not as benevolent as I should be, but I am somewhat, and I will support any brother, because I think we get caught up in it can only be one and this person doing that. And sometimes I have to fight when I have ideas and I see other people doing it. We have to get out of that mindset that, you know, there can be more than one. And we have the concept of abundance. Another YouTube video, look it up. The concept of abundance, where God has put enough here for everybody. There's enough for everybody. Just because somebody takes your idea and they're doing it, maybe you have to figure out a way to do it better. But again, I'm gonna support every brother, especially my fraternity brothers and brothers that I know and came up with. Anything that they do, even if it's my own idea that they've taken, I'm gonna always support. And so, you know, my college draft, I'm supporting. And when I go down back to Tuskegee, when I make it down there, I'm gonna go take a picture of my shirt. You know,
thank you, brother,
because I'm a support.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm glad I recorded this too, so now I can hold you to it.
Yeah, no. When I go back, I'm gonna go to if I go to the AAU or to the to Tuskegee campus, I may take one right in front of the chapel or in front of Booker T. Washington's grave.
I love
I'm a support.
I love it. Thank you so much. Again, you've been listening to the Stay True podcast, brought to you by True Beast Coaching, where triumph requires unlimited effort.